Howdy, Ags. Welcome to Aggie Growth Hacks, the podcast sponsored by the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M. We're dedicated to helping entrepreneurs improve their business, connect with other Aggie entrepreneurs, and support one another. I'm your host, Greg Martin, fighting Texas Aggie class of 2001. And normally, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Hunter, fighting Texas Aggie class in 1998. But we've got a little bit of a special episode for you today, Ags. A few months ago, Chris and I traveled from Aggieland to Dallas to meet with the Dallas A&M Club at one of their monthly luncheons. It was an amazing time, and we got to meet some great Ags, some of whom we'll be introducing to you in future seasons. One of the Ags we met was Jackson Smith, fighting Texas Aggie class of 22 and 25. Jackson works for a global marketing firm called Dentsu International, and Jackson helps lead the military/veteran BRG, which is a group of Dentsu employees that find ways to lift up, encourage, and highlight veteran employees and veteran-owned vendors. As we continue to talk and get to know each other, Jackson asked if Chris and I would be able to join them for one of their veteran-focused discussions where we share our insights about the crossover between military service and entrepreneurship. And Ags, if you have listened to Aggie Growth Hacks at all, you know that Chris and I are both veterans, and so this is something we are passionate about and something that we love doing. We love talking about entrepreneurship. We love talking about military service, and when they can intersect, as they do with a lot of our guests, we talk a lot about the Entrepreneurs Bootcamp for Veterans, one of the best programs that the McFerrin Center puts on every year. So this was a no-brainer, yes. Unfortunately, Chris was actually building his business, and he was attending one of his mastermind classes where he was focusing on growing his business, so he wasn't able to make it. But that's okay. I was able to sit in and talk to Jackson and his team, and we are going to share that discussion with you today. So pass it back and listen to Jackson as he shares some really good bull.
Welcome to the Dentsu Military BRG Podcast. Today we'll be talking about veterans and entrepreneurship. And we have Greg Martin with us here from Aggie Growth Hacks. So we'll kind of go through the veteran entrepreneur journey, the challenges, things that Greg's kind of just seen and experienced, discussed, and kind of go from there. Greg, if you want to take a minute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and represent Aggie Growth Hacks. A little bit about me. I'm a graduate of Texas A&M, and as you can kind of tell, this is all, my life, at least from this aspect of it, revolves around A&M. When I was a student, so I graduated in December of 2001, so I was the first commissioning class that signed up under peacetime, but when they raised their right hand, knew that we were going to go to war. And so I graduated in December. I was a field artillery officer in the U.S. Army. And so I spent about 6 months up in lovely Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I was able to go down and go through and graduate Ranger School, and then went up to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. I'm sorry, it'll always be Fort Bragg to me. It just what it is. Like Fort Hood will always be Fort Hood. But I spent my active duty time with the 82nd Airborne Division, deployed as part of the initial push up into Iraq, and then went to Afghanistan. Got out. I started working for a bank at that time as a commercial lender, helping serve entrepreneurs and kind of help them along their entrepreneur journey. And after about 2.5 years from that, I got a nice letter from Uncle Sam that said, "Hey, you've got 15 months left on your commitment. How about you spend up to 12 of it with us?" Now, I did go back to Fort Benning and Fort Sill, but I ended up at Fort Dix in Jersey. And Fort Dix in February is not a fun place to be. And and then from there we went to Iraq. But I actually linked up with Brian, some people in your neck of the woods, the 56th Stryker Brigade, which is the Pennsylvania National Guard Stryker Brigade. So I deployed with them from February to September of 2000, and gosh, that would have been 2009. So as the financial world was melting down, I was like, this sucks. I don't want to be a banker in this. I'd rather go deploy. So I actually deployed. But I show up, and of course, the National Guards, I coming off of active duty. I've got my 82nd patch, my Ranger tab, and all this stuff. And there's like this guy's a killer. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a banker now. Like put me in charge of some money or something. And so we were, at that point in time, there was the Army, all the coalition forces were spending a lot of money in the refurbishment and the SERP funds. And so we were rebuilding schools and bridges, and where I was in Taji was very, very heavily agricultural. So we would go in and, we would go buy a D872 to help kind of claw out the canals and everything. And so me and my pay agent would bebop on down to the bank that was on Camp Taji. We'd sign a couple pieces of paper and they'd be like, here's your $1 million. Good luck. And so we put it in a backpack, and like the two of us literally was like, bye. And we would go and, we would go deliver it, and, we'd get a receipt. So, I mean, bureaucracy is amazing. And I still have like 17 copies of all the receipts that I had, because I don't want to, I'm not going to be charged with embezzlement or anything. And so that was really good. But, let me kind of bring that back to entrepreneurship. So I got to learn government contracting from the inside. And so then when I was able to come back and join the bank again and continuing to serve entrepreneurs, that's really where I got to be able to say, okay, I can, one, I had I didn't maintain my top secret clearance, but had that and be able to say, okay, I understand. And so in the Pinehurst, Southern Pines area in North Carolina, there's a lot of government contractors. So as a banker, I got to see entrepreneurship and help them that way. And so that really kind of continued to drive what I wanted to do, to be able to help entrepreneurs. And veteran-owned businesses are super special because, as we'll talk about later today, the military prepares you so well to deal with the unknowns of entrepreneurship. And it is something that if we could just think of entrepreneurship like we did our military training, maybe with less four-letter words, but, do that at the same time, then it's so powerful. And so I did that for another 12 years. And then about a year and a half ago, I left the bank and started my own firm. And so GPM Financial I'm a fractional CFO for 5 or 6 different companies. So I continue to serve and help entrepreneurs be able to see the information in their financials, to connect their financials with their operational data to make the best decisions. But then also through Aggie Growth Hacks, that's a podcast that a good friend of mine, Chris Hunter, and I, who's also an Air Force veteran, but he's doing the entrepreneurship thing right now. And he's actually traveling back from a week-long mastermind. So he has, over the last 2 or 3 years, he has probably doubled, if not tripled, his business through the disciplines that comes with good entrepreneurship, investing in yourself and investing in your people. And so that's why he can't join us today. But Aggie Growth Hacks is a podcast that we just go out and we just talk to Aggie entrepreneurs. There's been a couple non-Aggie entrepreneurs, but a couple Aggie entrepreneurs. And we just say, what are the things that you're challenged with? How did you overcome that? How did you grow? How did you hack your growth? And the point of that is really for us to be able to pull entrepreneurs together. And it's an ecosystem. And to be able to say, okay, I may be where you want to be. I'm going to pull you up to me. Or, hey, I want to go up there. And then to be able to have somebody grab my hand and kind of help me. Hey, I'm not going to do this for you, but here's a couple things to not do, because I ran into a buzzsaw doing that. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. That's what I love about veteran entrepreneurship, again, is because we all brothers and sisters, that it doesn't matter what service you were in, what rank, what branch, heck, a lot of times even what country you're in. And if any of us had been deployed with and actually worked with multinational forces, you all get together, you have a common goal, and you give way together to achieve that, protect one another, and bring everybody home. So that was probably way more long-winded than y'all asked for, but that's me and my 5-minute elevator pitch. So big elevator.
Oh, no, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yeah, wish Chris could be here. Yeah, just like you said, Air Force veteran, that's almost a branch of the military, and your field artillery, which is almost the infantry. But as a background, sorry, I had to. I saw it, and I was like, man, I'm sitting on it.
That's okay. I was the officer that was an RTO that had a heavy ruck. So yeah, I got it.
Honestly, I'm sure your ruck's probably heavier than mine. So I'm not even gonna point fingers there. But no, thank you so much, Thank you so much. And I guess like some quick little wave tops from my end. West Point grad was currently a student and also a graduate of A&M. Did the infantry officer thing for a while. Did the Ranger School thing, got into a nasty accident, medically separated, and then I've been out since, gosh, like about 6 years now. But yeah, so that's kind of like wave tops where I'm at. Was at Fort Hood, and it was supposed to go to Fort Bragg, but after that accident, they were like, "How does Fort Hood sound?" Like, clean, sounds great. It sounds like a great place to get out. Then I was separated from there, but no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm currently here. We're gonna data analyst at Dentsu. So yeah, kind of diving right in. One of the things that you mentioned there is the challenges and like how like working with entrepreneurs that may be a few years ahead or a few years behind or brand new or very well versed in the process. But if you could just like dive into like a challenge or like something that you found that was a roadblock initially that you were able to overcome, either with guidance from other veteran entrepreneurs or these things that you've seen with veteran entrepreneurs or anything in that space.
Yeah, I think that me dealing with entrepreneurs and veteran entrepreneurs as their banking partner, but then also helping my clients now in my role as their CFO or helping and listening to clients through Aggie growth hacks, the thing that consistently separates, there's probably 2 or 3 things that consistently separate companies that are really growing and thriving and companies that are just working their tails off, but spinning their wheels. And the number one thing, and this may be surprising, may not be, is culture. And having a very clearly defined culture. And that culture can be anything, but having that defined and having the leadership of that company say, this is who we are. This is what we believe. This is who we serve. This is the value that we bring them. This is the language that we speak internally. And we come together and we're all aligned. That not only helps you have a framework for dealing with internal and external conflict, because you're looking at your values and saying, how do I do this with the lens of these values? And that's one of the key things is having a strong culture is not just having a properly wordsmith or a really cool sign or something like that, but going down to the lowest level and briefing that culture, living that culture, reinforcing that culture. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily, this may be controversial, but it doesn't have to be a good culture. This was not a client that I work with, but I'd heard a story once about there was this real estate company and it was a very toxic culture in the sense that it was very, frat boy type culture, very aggressive, internally cutthroat and everything. But they were successful because the realtors that they attracted wanted to be in that culture. The clients that they attracted wanted to have that type of experience. It's not something that I would have chosen. And, it's not good for the long term for everybody, but they had a very clearly defined, communicated, and they stuck to a culture. And because of that, they were able to succeed. Now, I'm not saying that you should have a frat boy culture. What I'm saying is that you should have a culture that is going to weather you through the hard times, those times of uncertainty, those times of getting kicked in the gut and not knowing what the hell you're going to do, because no one thought of that as a contingency plan. But if I can always sit there and I can fall back on my 4 principles, my core values, and answer it honestly from those core values perspective and be consistently in that, then you're gonna succeed long term. So that's probably the one thing that I would say that separates the companies that are struggling, the ones that have kind of hacked their growth and are accelerating.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? Where it's like, if everybody's rowing in the same direction, you can change course. If you start to realize like, hey, maybe this is not the culture that we want to have, or maybe this is a little more toxic than we want it to be. But if you're not pulling in the same direction, you're not going to go anywhere, right? So that does make a lot of sense. It lines up with even like the is the culture good or not, or is it healthy or not? Like, well, if it is healthy, great. If it's not healthy, at least we're all going in the same direction and we can turn the shit.
We're all going to hell together.
Right. Hopefully not, but hopefully we can start the course correct. But no, that's been phenomenal. It definitely resonates quite a bit. You mentioned the four principles that you have. If you don't mind, could you walk us through kind of what your values are for GPM?
One for me, it's being Christ-centered. I'm a Christian, and my faith is critical to myself and my family, and to be able to say, okay, I want to run my business and I want to work with people that honor him and honor my beliefs. That's most important. Two, I talk about being always hungry. And by that, I want to work with entrepreneurs that want to learn. I will probably never be an expert. Like I've got a manufacturer, a landscaper, security company, a roofer, and a couple doctor's offices that I serve. And I will never be as good of a man knowing a manufacturer's company as intimately as the owners that have been doing it for 30 years. But I want to work with entrepreneurs that want to learn from me, want to learn from the perspective, not to say that I've got it right, but to say this is a different way of looking at this problem. And if we are having the same problem over and over and over again, and we're trying to achieve a different result, then we got to look at it differently. And I want someone that's going to respect that. I don't need someone that's like, I need you to shut up, do my numbers, and then, I've got it from there. I want it to be collaborative, but I want you to be hungry and I want you to learn. So Christ-centered, willing to learn. I want you to be humble. And then that kind of ties into that, in that you're willing to kind of hear from me and hear from the team that's around you, and respect that. And then data driven. And with what I do in my world, I have a manufacturer's mentality of even approaching some of the service companies, like the security company or the lawn care company. I mean, we're not producing widgets, but we're doing hours worth of mowing grass. And so if we can break all of our financial metrics down to by hour, then we can know. And then even with that, we can say, okay, well, we've budgeted in order to do this park. We thought it was going to be a 4-hour job. Well, if we're tracking our guys and it's a 5-hour job, then did we miss that on the bid? Are they being inefficient? Is the equipment bad? What is going on? Because we budgeted and we bid it for 4 hours, and we're losing money every second that it goes over those 4 hours. And so being able to have the data and to be able to not get lost, not lose the forest for the trees, but to be able to willing to say, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to move away from our gut. And entrepreneurs, one of the things I love the most about entrepreneurs is that they have a really good gut. Like they're able to kind of say, well, I think my business is, I think I don't have enough cash on hand for where we're growing, because you've been doing it for 30 years. But if I can come in and if I can take financial data, marry it with operational data, and then say, this right here, this graph right here tells you why you can't sleep at night. And so let's figure out what we're going to do in order to make sure we get enough cash. Do we need to go to the bank and get a bigger line of credit? Do you need to go to the owners and have them pony up cash? Are you looking to sell some of your business? Or do you need to go and partner with your vendors? Maybe get, instead of paying, 10 days after delivery, see if they'll give you 30 days. Do you need to go get your baseball bat, and the people that owe you $500,000, go get it from them? So it's doing that and being kind of data centric in what we do.
Well, the last one definitely resonates quite a bit, coming from the math major. Was president of the math club in college, and I tell people that's a flex. It's not. It's still like in my head, I'm still like, yeah, I crushed it. But I mean, I was without a master's in stats and a master's.
That's a mature flex.
Oh yeah. At the time, I was so proud, and I was like, dude, you're 21. Like, no wonder you don't have a date. That's like very shocking. But no, that resonates quite a bit. And I guess like from those 4 principles, how do you see them drive like interactions with hiring or with suppliers or with customers? Like where does that manifest itself in like the day-to-day processes that you find? I mean, like the data one makes sense, right? Like that's numerical, but
yeah. For me, I mean, I'll completely admit it. I'm still 18 months into this whole entrepreneur thing. And so I'm still a baby at it. even though I've been around it for, most of my professional career, with the exception of the time in the military. By that, I mean, I'm a one-man shop, and it is just me. And sometimes that's great because I don't have to worry about payroll. Sometimes that sucks because if I've got extra work to do, then guess who's working at night and on the weekends? And, you can do that for a little bit, but I did not start this company in order to work 60, 70 hours a week consistently. Hear me. I'm not saying I don't want to work hard. I'm saying if I have the ability to create a company, then why the hell am I going to create a company that forces me to work 60 hours? Now, that means I need to make some strategic decisions. I need to start bringing such additional value that I can charge more to my clients, or I need to adjust my expectations, or maybe I need to start saying, okay, well, how can I codify some of my processes? How can I outsource this? Is there somebody that I can, pay $30 an hour that gives me 2 hours of my life back? And to be able to say, okay, I have to be willing to exchange some of that. And so it's kind of applying some of that data-driven analysis for my own self, as far as, from a Christ-centered perspective and everything. I mean, obviously there are some industries that I'm just not aligned with in order to be able to really serve and to kind of help with that. So I won't be doing anything that goes against my beliefs. But then it's also a matter of talking with entrepreneurs and saying, okay, are you willing to hear what I have to say and to let me speak into you and to give you advice? When I was a banker, I had this one conversation with a client, and this was years and years and years ago. And actually, it wasn't even a client; it was a prospect. And I was like, hey, how do you want to grow and everything? He's basically, I'm going to just grow, and I know my business better than you'll ever know, banker, because you've never run your business, you never run a business. So if you become my banker, you just need to say yes to every single one of my loan requests so that I can grow. And then you need to shut your mouth because I know how to do this business better than you. I'll pay you. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. Good luck. And then I stopped prospecting him completely because that wasn't a fit. And while what he said, a lot of that was true, but like him or hate him, Bill Belichick was one of the best pro football coaches in the history of the game. I don't think Bill was a professional player.
Right.
So you can't tell me that I have to do everything. Now, having been an entrepreneur for the last 18 months, I see the world in a much deeper and wider lens, and that's okay. But it's also to say that's why you have to surround yourself. And this is another key area of strong growing entrepreneurs is that you surround yourself with, I call them your Fab Five. Those are the 5 people, your board of directors, the people that you surround yourself with that hold you accountable, that push you forward, whether that be your banker, your accountant, your insurance, your lawyer. Maybe it's other entrepreneurs like with Chris, it's a mentor. It's having that and being able to say, how can we do that? And so kind of bringing that back, we're talking about military, but how is that any different than a team leader or a squad leader pulling those young soldiers or sailors or Marines and to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take care of you, but I'm going to teach you up so that you are part of this team and I'm going to hold you accountable. But those specialists are surely going to hold old Sarge accountable because of, if you crap on them too much, they'll do it. Yeah, Roger, got it. But then, your cot might show up missing the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And just to be able to say, how do you grow and how do you kind of push it forward? I mean, in the military, I was looking back this and I rolled my eyes. I hated officer professional development because, I didn't want to go talk about some stupid Civil War.
Remember like walking the battlefield to like the Indian wars in Oklahoma once. Like, what am I doing here?
We are never going to war on horseback. This is not going to be Red Dawn. So, it's
gonna be cowboy hat. Yep.
But to be able to sit there and come along and be like, okay, well, this is how you truly take care of your Joes. Here's how you make sure that you have all the things that you do, the mission of your unit, of whatever task that you're given, whether it's patrolling the streets of Baghdad or clearing Tora Bora, that's what you've got to do. But you have got to protect your people and you've got to equip your people. You've got to have clear guides and you need to be able to say, okay, I am there with you. I'm leading you. That's the same thing with entrepreneurship. And it's having that Fab Five around you as an entrepreneur. It's the same thing that we did as soldiers, to be able to be professional killers.
Right. Right. No, and you bring up a good point with the 5 people you surround yourself with. And I know I've read a few books that mention like the 5 people you surround yourself with, and you're the average or the median of all 5 of those. So I guess like when you're kind of going through the process of like starting up veteran entrepreneurship and kind of getting into that space, what characteristics do you look for in the 5 people that you're trying to surround yourself with, or what is how do you build that community?
I would say that from my perspective, it's not having, this is not your drinking group. You don't need peers. You don't need people who haven't done that. So you need to invest. You need to find people who are where you want to be and invest in them, and then show value to them. Now, I get it. That might be a little bit complicated, because if you're in the industry and you're bigger than me, then maybe you're going to see me as competition, and maybe it's a matter of finding the right entrepreneur. But entrepreneurship is a team sport, and most entrepreneurs that I work with are more than happy to share with them. Now, they're not going to, share all of the secret sauce, but even like we were talking about before we started rolling, in your world, in marketing, there is so much that a video marketing company can teach a print marketing company or graphics company or something, that they're not competing. And maybe you've got to find, geographic distance to kind of overcome that, but you want to find somebody that's actually going to push you, that's going to make you think the way that you're, more than what you normally want to think, because through that is going to be growth. I mean, could you imagine having an entire division of baby lieutenants actually trying to lead troops and not having the sage wisdom of that, Sergeant First Class Dawson, who was an awesome guy, but he also kicked my ass enough to be able to say, "Hey, sir, this is really what you need. That good job, but this is what you really should have said."
Oh, I mean, I remember Ibolic. Like that's exactly what that was. Just like 40 lost lieutenants in the woods.
100%. And so it's a matter of saying, okay, if I'm gonna be the average of the 5 people, then you need to be the lowest rung initially of those 5 people, and then let them pull you up. And then also on the flip side, be willing to reach down and be part of somebody else's Fab 5 so that you can support them.
And you hit like right exactly where I was kind of going with that, which is like, how do you from the position that you're in, how do you help those that are also coming up? But I mean, by exposing yourself and allowing yourself to be a part of other people's Fab 5, like that makes perfect sense. When to kind of keep the knowledge flow kind of going from the more experienced down to the lower levels, and like I imagine like driving innovation along the way. Like, hey, these are problems to solve, or these are roadblocks that we've had, and these are solutions. Like, okay, well, how else can we solve these problems?
Yeah.
But no, that's fantastic. And yeah, thank you so much. So I guess between like the experiences that you've had and the people that you've interviewed with the Aggie growth hacks, like what kind of themes have you seen across industry, across time, across, are there any like trends that jump out as like, oh yeah, this seems to be a running like veteran entrepreneur issue, concern, benefit?
Yeah. First and foremost, it's culture. The second thing that I would say that a lot of the successful companies that we talk with are operating on some type of commonality and common system. A lot of them are on EOS, or Entrepreneur's Operating System. It's a system that was codified by Gino Wickman in the book Traction. I think that it's so powerful because at the it is all about simplifying the noise and the chaos that is entrepreneurship, coming together to make sure that we're all aligned, and then making sure that we are consistently doing activities on a hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis for all of us. Every aspect of the business is pushing towards that's the common goal, and then holding each other accountable. It doesn't have to be EOS. There's scaling up, or there's a couple different systems, but whatever it is, having that commonality is so critical. I mean, even it's so funny. We were talking about that before we dropped. Even just something as simple as communication, getting on the call today, is to make sure that we're all here. Our cameras are working. We're all able to hear each other. We're able to communicate. If all of us have been in some type of training or actual combat environment, that it's been chaos. And if you don't have a system, you don't know what's going on, then you're going to break down and you're going to fail your mission. And while it is for most companies, bullets aren't flying at us. So the worst day at work is not as bad as it was when we were deployed. And I say that a little flippantly, but not really. So from putting that in perspective, having that system in place. So having a good culture, having a common operating system, and then it's the basic things that the military taught us that any junior leader in the military knows. I mean, you got to take care of your people. You've got to communicate your commander's intent. What do we have to do? It has to be very few, very clear. If you don't do anything else, this has got to be accomplished. This is what success is. And that is so hard when you have 40 things on your list that you think those are the most critical. But if all 40 of them are the most critical thing, then you're going to have analysis paralysis and you're not going to achieve any of it. And so to be able to be very clear and then make sure that they communicate back to you so that clear communication is both received and communicated back. You resource them as best you can with as much time as you can. But the military has taught us one thing. It's you're not going to have enough bubbas, equipment, or time, or really super understanding because the enemy's, kind of knows what's, is going to affect what's going on.
Oh yeah, the enemy gets a vote too. Yeah.
I don't care. Go figure it out. I mean, one of the greatest, and this is probably just because we were dumb cadets and that we were cadets in airborne school, but like literally we showed up early and they're like, oh, of course we got specialists that are in charge of cadets and, they've got their maroon beret. And so we think they're God. It's like, awesome. Oh, that's what I want. And they're like, yeah, so we don't know what we're going to do, but, yeah, we're going to go ahead and, re-rake the rock area and, we're going to put lines in there and we don't have a hose. So here's a pipe. Like go dig up the area that was the smoking area and has been just pounded for the last 5 years and go plant a garden there. So but hey, we knew what we needed to do. We had plenty of time to do it. We really didn't have the right tools, but it got done. But you know what, that's a small example of in entrepreneurship we don't know. We're never going to have all the answers all at once because if you did, then it wouldn't be risky. That'd be easy. And entrepreneurship is anything but easy.
That makes sense. And if you kind of like paraphrase it, say kind of like the last 30 years, it sounds like there's a between like the culture and the operating system. It sounds very much like the nested in task, purpose, intent, right? Where like everything that you do has to be pulling in the same direction. We all have to know where we're going ultimately and know the left and right limits of how to get there. And nesting everything within and saying, like, out of these list of 40 things that need to get done, what is the most important and how are these nested in and where are we really going to and what really does matter? But that resonates quite a bit. The cadet story, like that resonates way more than it should. Yeah, looking back on it now, like, God is blessed. The amount of dumb things that happened as a cadet and I will like, yikes.
That's right.
Nobody ever asked me to dig up a smoke pit, though. So like, I'll hand that one to you. But so kind of pull it back into the like the specific like challenge or like specific point of conflict or thing you've like either seen, experience yourself or like seen through others. Has there been any like consistent like aha moments either with your own experience or across other entrepreneurs or like a moment that you said like, oh, like, duh, that I got it now. And it seemed like that across all the other veteran entrepreneurs or just entrepreneurs in general. But yeah, can you kind of dive into that space a bit?
Yeah. So a couple things. One, if you truly believe that you're on the same team and that we're all giving way together, then you have to operate in a spirit of grace in saying, okay, even though there's conflict and even though the person that I'm talking with, they may be disagreeing with me, I'm going to start from a position that they are also giving way together, that they are also going in the same direction. And we can talk and communicate to make sure that that's the case, but let's start there. And then it doesn't need to be about I'm right, you're wrong. It needs to be about, this is the best thing for the mission, what we've got to accomplish for the mission, and how do we work through that. Throughout that process, it's a lot of communication, it's a lot of humility, it's a lot of biting your tongue, it's a lot of listening, and then it's a lot of what I call tactical patience. And so when I was doing, I learned tactical patience when I was going through Ranger School, and I failed Florida. Well, technically I failed Florida because I was a med recycle the first time, but I don't think I would have passed because I failed my 2 patrols, because when things were going on, I was that dumb lieutenant that was running up and down the line in an ambush saying, it's like, what's going on? Oh my God. Okay, let's go over here. No, let's go over here. And so the dudes got slaughtered, and my poor platoon mates, I'm sorry guys, but like literally like, okay, you're dead, and you're dead. So you're going to pick those 6 up, and you're going to pick their gear up, and now we're going to walk 15 clicks to your patrol base. So that sucks. So,
I'm getting nauseous thinking about it, doing because I did the exact same thing in Darby. Like, exact same thing.
But that, after I got out of the hospital and was able to talk with the RIs before I started the next cycle, I mean, it's like, okay, well, you just need to have tactical patience. When something happens, you don't know what the hell's going on. Just calm down. Let's get the facts. They may not be perfect facts, but before we make any decisions, let's understand as best we can what's going on. And then you need to assess, and you need to calmly go through and be like, let's figure it out. And to me, going through conflict or going through some really tough things. I mean, I've had some things this week that have been significantly tough things that some of my clients are going through. And it's like, okay, the inside of me is like, I didn't want to, it's like, I don't, but it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to react. Let's figure out the facts. Let's figure out exactly what happened, what went wrong. And then once we have that, we'll figure out a course of action, and then we'll execute on the course of action. See, is it positive? If it is, then we keep pushing into it. If it's not giving us the result that we want, then we're going to come back and be like, okay, how do we change? Because what we thought was going to work is not going to work, but it's having that tactical patience in conflict or in uncertainty that allows you to have a higher probability of success.
That absolutely resonates. I remember having I had an algebra teacher in 6th grade, Miss Albrecht. She would say like, do what you can with where you are with what you have, and like that, like taking the moment to really answer those questions, opposed to just like diving in and committing to a task or an action. That definitely resonates quite a bit. Is that something that you see like happening to a lot of veteran entrepreneurs specifically? I mean, like coming from the military background where like action is kind of the driving force, where like action is better than no action.
I think that they have a natural tendency towards that, just because, we are taught adapt, improvise, and overcome. I mean, that's just, I mean, you're not going to have all the information, enough people, enough time, enough resources. So we're going to adapt, improvise, and we're going to overcome. The good ones have learned that tactical patience, but also, the good entrepreneurs learn that as well. They may not call it that, but to be able to bring in as quickly as you can all the information you need in order to make the best decision. But again, the military is a highly stressful environment. So they really do teach us to kind of to grow and to have that natural bias towards action. We just need to make sure that it's controlled chaos.
Absolutely. Tara, you're off mute. Did you have something?
Greg, I was just going to ask you that this whole, the tactical patience is really sticking with me. It's really kind of hitting a note with me. But the very first thing that you had mentioned is like, you got to, in order to kind of achieve that or get that, you have to have that calmness. Right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like that cool as a cucumber. Okay, yes, things may be falling apart and unraveling, out of control and chaotic, but like, do you have like 2 or 3 tips to how you can get the calmness that you need in order to gain the tactical patience, I guess?
Yes, I can kind of give you a couple examples from
that'd be great.
When I work with entrepreneurs as a banker. I think that the first thing is that, I mean, this is basic leadership. If chief is freaking out, then all the bubbas are going to freak out. And so even if you are losing it inside, you owe it to your team to fake it. Fake the funk, man. I mean, you because if you don't, then you're going to put undue stress on them, stress that you don't need them distracted to achieve this task. You need them to look at you and be like, all right, the old man or the old lady, they get it. They know where we're going, and I'm going to follow. So you've got to manage that. The second thing is that you need to get information, disseminate information properly. There is especially in crisis there. I'm not saying that you lie to the people underneath you, but your line workers do not need to know that you haven't taken a paycheck in 6 months. They need to know when Friday comes, they get a paycheck and it's not gonna bounce. So you need to disseminate now, but to higher leadership to be able to say, okay, how do you communicate clearly and get that information and disseminate information properly? And then it's constant assessment of the plan of what's going on. When I was recalled back in the Army in 2008, 2009. So during the housing meltdown. And so then I came back and joined the bank again. And, that's when I really started my commercial relationship manager, commercial lender role. And so it was like, hi, I'm Greg. I know you haven't met me before, but we need to start talking about, restructuring your line of credit or stuff like that you haven't paid down the last 3 years. So I had to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And if y'all remember, the housing market was terrible at that time. But one of the best clients that I had was a home builder. And he was struggling just as much as all the other home builders. But he wasn't military, but he led by those principles. Like, I mean, he was way overextended. And as long as houses keep selling, everything was great. But he was way overextended. And then everyone stopped buying houses. It didn't matter that rates dropped down to 2% or whatever they were. If no one's buying your house, then it's sitting there, and it's not like you can go and take a shovel full of dirt to the bank and be like, okay, here's my monthly payment. Right. And so what he did is that he was very calm through it, even though if he didn't work through this properly, it could have been, very detrimental to him personally. But he was very calm, at least on the outwards, and kind of walked through and said, okay, well, let's figure this out. If I can't sell these homes, how can we go ahead and can we turn them into rentals, or can we do something? That was a little bit before VRBO and everything, but we lived in the Pinehurst area. And so there's a lot of golf there. And so he's like, well, what if we start doing short-term rentals for golf trips and stuff like that? And while it wasn't necessarily the booming time to have, people fly in to spend money on golf trips, but that was something, and it was just enough to put through the stuff and to go through 18 months of hell. But then it started to turn, and then he was able to take one of those off and make a long-term rental, and then he would take another one off and then sell it, and then another one. And by the end of that 18 to 24 months, he'd worked himself out of the process. But it was about being calm. It was about being creative. It was about having a team and trusting the team, and then just making sure that you're always looking out for your people, but you're always looking out for the mission and what has to happen.
Awesome. Thank you. Well said. Like that. Very insightful. Thank you.
That is a very inspiring story about really improvising, adapting, overcoming, and saying all right, I've got a couple sticks, and then no, it's not enough to build a hut, but I can build something with this, and I can use this and do something. Yeah. That's and that resonates quite a bit. I'm sure that's a situation that you find yourself in. All of us often, right?
And anyone that owned a business in March of 2020 knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you have to be operationally flexible in order to deal with a global pandemic. And y'all, if you have forgotten that, I hope COVID-32 never comes around. But when it does, you better be flexible.
Kind of on that note of operational flexibility, there's obviously there's a certain amount of education training that you can kind of start to build your tool set with, right? To say hey, I don't know much about short-term rentals, but I need to get spun up on it. Were there any resources or anything that you have seen, experienced, or kind of walked through that have been hey, that was great because now I've got a whole suite of tools that I didn't have before and resources I can access?
I don't know if there's any one that's like that I would say, hey, this is the silver bullet that I would go to. But there's a lot of things that you can do. So, I mean, one of the things that is most near and dear to my heart is the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M. And they are a sponsor of the Aggie Growth Hacks podcast. And what the McFerrin Center is, it is the center within A&M that teaches not only current students, but they offer a lot of programs to former students to be able to teach them the principles of entrepreneurship, because this is not the wild. And yes, you can be in the wild west and you can be a gunslinger and you can be a successful entrepreneur, but there's enough data and there's enough nerds out there that have actually studied entrepreneurship to boil it down to here's the basic components. You know, how do you know that what you want to do is valuable to your client? Because if you think what you do is valuable, but your client doesn't, then they will never buy from you. Doesn't matter what you think. You have to bring value to them. And so that's just one of the things that the McFerrin Center talks to. But that would be one of the resources that I would say that you can go through if you are a veteran and own a business or thinking about owning a business. There's a program that the McFerrin Center does twice a year. It's called EBV, or Entrepreneurs Bootcamp for Veterans. And it is basically a week-long MBA crammed in, and it is like boot camp. I mean, they are working from early in the morning to late at night on their business, and Chris and I have both been able to mentor, and we've been able to mentor people that have been in business for 20 years, people that are just starting their business. There's even a couple people that were still in the military, and like they were going to transition out in the next 6 months, and like, I know I want to start my business when I get out. So they were able to go. And in that program, it's not only at A&M. I think there's like 11 different universities across the country that do it. A&M's the best, but A&M also, we've got a corporate sponsor. And so that whole week, all the books leading up to the training, all of the travel, the transportation, the hospitality, hotels, everything, it's all paid for. So it's the zero out-of-pocket cost. Those bets. So that'd be one place I'd say. For those who can't make it down to Aggie land, then, I mean, a couple of things local. Every community or area should have a small business development center, an SBDC. And these are usually tied with some type of universities, but these are people that you can go into, and it is their job to help you build out a business plan, help you think critically about what you want to do, or if you, like you said, Jackson, if there was an area that you want to learn more about, they can either help coach you in that or connect you with maybe an entrepreneur that's in the area that does that. So the SBDC, there's also SCORE, and I think that's the society. I'm going to mess it all up, but it's retired executives that basically want to just be like, you know what, I've got 30 years of experience running British Petroleum or doing whatever, and I'm retired, but I love talking about entrepreneurship and being able to speak into that, and then to be able to be like, how can I sit there and help you with your dog grooming business so that you can think critically? It's about having that Fab Five that you surround yourself. The SBA has a lot of good resources, and then really just if there's a community college or something, those are great resources. Chamber of Commerce, and again, it's about you. If you are a aspiring entrepreneur or a struggling entrepreneur, and you present yourself to someone that, maybe even on the outside looks like they've achieved it, they've got it, then you go out, walk in with some humility and say, look, I just want to sit there and learn from you. They're probably going to be willing to help you, because we all know that entrepreneurship's a kick in the gut, and you may be flying high one day, and then your client for whatever reason says, you know what, nope, I think we need to part ways. And maybe it's your fault, maybe it's not, but that's life. So are you going to crawl up in the fetal position and suck your thumb and say, boo hoo hoo, how am I going to replace that income? No. Right. Get up, put your big boy panties on, and then go find the next dragon and go slay that.
Oh yeah, no, everybody's adapt to overcome. Like, are you gonna die here or not?
That's right.
That makes a lot of sense. And as a last plug, also like Aggie Growth Hacks, another good.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
Yes, I appreciate you. You know, yeah, good. Like Chris was like, you got one thing, you got one job, pitch the podcast.
Like,
so
come on, man,
thanks, man.
It's in the background.
But yeah, no, and again, the whole reason that we started the podcast was to be able to connect entrepreneurs together and to be able to hear. And I mean, at this point, we're in season 9, and we've had everything from engineers to defense contractors to doctors to real estate professionals on the whole gamut. And so if check it out, if there's somebody that is in industry that you are in or you want to connect with Chris, connect with me, connect with the McFerrin Center. And we're more than happy to do a warm handoff, because like I said, entrepreneurs want to help one another and to be able to support and encourage one another.
Absolutely. And again, for everybody on the call, we'll provide the links to both Greg and Chris's LinkedIn, as well as Aggie Growth Hacks and the McFerrin Center and all the other resources that were kind of mentioned in here. Just for those of you that are trying to like Google and also listen and also Google at the same time, we'll provide the links. I've all been there before, but we've got about 5 minutes left here.
Yeah. So, we talked a lot about entrepreneurs and veterans. What would you say to that veteran that is kind of teetering between corporate America or, continuing down that path or looking into entrepreneurship? It seems like a lot of times a veteran is better suited to kind of venture out to that. But what would you say to that one that's kind of going, maybe should I do it? Is this for me? How would you entice them to kind of look at their veteran background, their military background, and entrepreneurship, and why they would do it?
Yeah. So I would say that you need to do, putting it in our military vernacular, you need to do a really good recon. You need to not only do an internal recon, which means that, and listen, I drink my own champagne. So I'm telling you what I did. And I mean, I guess I had the benefit or the not benefit, but as a banker, I sat on the other side of desks for years of people saying, I want to leave my W-2 job in order to start this thing. And so just sit there and be like, okay, well, what do you want to do? What is the value that you're going to provide? And so this is the external recon. What's the value you're going to provide? Do you have enough? Are there clients in your area if you're geographically focused, or if you're over the internet? Can you attract and acquire clients without being face to face? Because those are two different skill sets, two different challenges. And then what is the value that they perceive that you're going to get? And then are they going to be willing to agree to whatever type of compensation you want? And if any of those questions are unknown, then don't leave your day job until you have a good plan, until you know that, and ideally, so when I was kind of transitioning out of my role, I had a couple clients that I actually, I was like, look, I'm leaving. This is what I'm doing, and this is how I think I can serve you. You know me. It was easy for me because they knew me. They knew Greg. They knew the miracles that I can perform because I did that as their bank. But in this new role where I'm completely aligned with you, here's how I think I can do it. And I was lucky enough to have 3 of them say, yes, that's good. And that was enough for me to take that confident leap and to know that we weren't going to, eat beanie weenies and rice for the next year. But on the flip side, that's where you go for the internal recon and be like, okay, what do I need to take home every day? How do I, and now is that on top of taxes, not only payroll taxes, but income taxes? So all of that is different than a W-2 job. Do you have enough of a reserve, a war chest to be able to say, okay, well, if you don't have, if you only need 3 clients in order to meet your monthly nut, in order to, pay your mortgage, pay your car bills, utilities, feed, bathe, and clothe the kids. If you can do all that, and if you've got 3 clients, great. But what if you only have 2? Well, yeah. I mean, is there a way that, there's not a conflict of interest? Like I cannot be both a banker and a CFO. So, I mean, I had to cut it off. But is there a way that you can kind of moonlight a little bit and kind of work through that to reduce that risk? And then do you have a wad of cash that's sitting in reserve to be able to help cushion that fall, to give you more of a runway, more of a resources to be able to do that. And if you don't have that, and I mean, it's relatively simple math, and having, somewhere between 3 and 6 months runway. I mean, obviously more runway is better than less, but if you don't have that, then do what we do in the military. You come up with a plan, you come up with goals, and then you start to execute on it. And if that means that you've got to save $2,000 a month for the next 12 months in order for you to get that nest egg to do what you need to do, then you do it. And if you allow yourself not to do it, then, and I'm going to say this bluntly, but with grace, then you're not disciplined enough. If you're not disciplined enough to do that, then you don't want it bad enough. Because if you're not disciplined to be able to do it when there is relatively low stress on you, then when it comes down to, hey, this is the time to, put up or shut up, then that's when you may not be prepared. And so to be honest and to do that internal recon and an external recon, and then you set yourself up for success, and then you just work your tail off.
Awesome. Well, Greg, thank you so much. I know we're out of time here, but thank you so much for your time, and thank you for spending the Veterans Day podcast with us. Greg and Chris are available on Aggie Growth Hacks. We'll provide links for Spotify, Audible, all of that. The McFerrin Center at Dan, Texas A&M. But again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And as anything else, we'll wrap up here.
We appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Well, Ags, I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed the conversation. Really loved talking about how Dentsu and other companies really focus on military employees, but also military-owned companies that they want a partnership, that they want to have a vendor relationship with. And as we were talking through that, it just struck me, I've talked a lot, and we've talked a lot with some government contracting firms, and there's a lot of benefit to a veteran-owned government contracting firm. But honestly, Ags, if you think about it, there's a lot of other companies that want to have this military service represented in not only their employees, but their vendor pool as well. So if you are a military veteran and you are looking to partner with some of these larger companies, make sure you have a discussion with them about reaching out to their military BRG or business readiness group and be able to say, okay, this is something that you can provide to them that helps meet their overall corporate mission. And just throughout this discussion, be able to be encouraged and just psyched up about talking about how military service actually helps entrepreneurship, helps us deal with the fog of uncertainty, but to be able to have the same basic principles of clear communication, having a common goal, and trusting the people that you build. That's really one of the things that I took away from this conversation. That's going to do it for this episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you're not connected with Jackson, please connect with Jackson. If you're not connected with Aggie Growth Hacks or Chris or I, please connect with us on any of the socials that you're on, and let us learn about you. And hey, we might be able to highlight you and your company on a future episode of Aggie Growth Hacks. We want to continue to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, McFerrin Center of Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M, not only for sponsoring Aggie Growth Hacks, but sponsoring the Entrepreneurs Bootcamp for Veterans. And we want to give another shout out to Reynolds & Reynolds, who is the named sponsor of that. We've actually got another session that's getting ready to launch. I actually got the email this afternoon, and so I put down my mentoring times. If you are a veteran that owns a business and you don't know what that is, connect with Chris, connect with me, and we'd love to share that with you. But the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Texas A&M has, since 1999, has served as the hub for entrepreneurship at Texas A&M University. So if you are an Aggie entrepreneur or even a wantrepreneur, head over to their website now and find a program that's right for you. Just go to aggiegrowthhacks.com/McFerrin right now. So join us next time when we connect with another great Aggie entrepreneur. So join us next time when we actually wrap up season 9 of Aggie Growth Hacks. That has been so amazing. It has been such a great ride with all of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us. Until then, thanks and gig 'em.